next. All right, step 5, code finder. Basically, this is going to ask us to find an instruction that accesses our health address, that changes it, that decreases it, and then we're going to NOP it, and so that that instruction doesn't execute. So let's assume 100 is an integer and scan for it. Change value 61. There we have it. We're going to right click and do find out writes to this address. So basically what this does is it attaches a debugger to the process, and it puts a breakpoint on that address, a data write breakpoint. So anytime an instruction writes to it, the breakpoint's going to be caught. It's going to record what instructions touched it. What accesses is just going to show us what instructions read it. Which is not what we want in this case. So find out what writes to it. Yes, we want to attach a debugger. Let's click change the value, and now we see it caught this instruction accessing that address. So this is just a little snippet of the disassembly, and then we have the registers here. So this says move EDX into the address pointed to by EAX. And if we look at EAX, that corresponds to this address right here, so we know that's good. And let's do show disassembler. And so in this view, it shows us the bytes, which are just hexadecimal representation of the binary that the CPU is executing. And so data and code are both the same thing, but when we're talking about code, these hexadecimal bytes represent instructions that the CPU can execute. And so the representation here, they're called opcodes. Move EDX into the address pointed to by EAX. If we right click and do toggle breakpoint, and then click change value, the breakpoint's going to get caught right here. And we're going to see that EDX is 3D4 in hex, and we're going to move that into the address pointed to by EAX, which we saw right here. And then if we click F7 to step through that, we're now going to see that this value is 980. And if we go up here and just plug in 3D4, we're going to see that in decimal it's 980. So that is the correct instruction. Right click it, toggle breakpoint off, and so what we want to do is we want to NOP this instruction. So we're going to right click it and click replace with code that does nothing. And what name do you want to give this code? Doesn't really matter, but what that does is it saves it. So if you click advanced options right here, you'll see that code was then saved, and then when you save your cheat table, you'll always be able to go back to that so you don't lose that address. You see a lot of people like writing stuff down in a notepad when they're doing these tutorials. It's really unnecessary. Cheat Engine will save everything right in the cheat table for you as long as you know how to use it. But anyways, back to the point here. We did NOP this instruction. Now, the byte 90 represents the NOP code, which is no operation, which means it just does nothing. So instead of changing the health value, it's just going to do nothing instead. And the previous instruction was 2 bytes, so now the NOPs have to be 2 bytes as well, or else it's going to be all messed up. So now when we change value, it doesn't change. It's going to be 980 no matter how many times that we click it. All right. So that's the end of step 1 through 5. Next video is going to do steps 6 through 8, I think.